Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Critical Issues Forum online teachers workshop. So today's lecture is North Korea's nuclear weapons program by Mr. Hyuk Kim. He's a CNS research associate. Hyuk is a research associate for the Export Control and the Non-Proliferation Program at CNS. Hyuk supports the Center's export controls and non-proliferation related research and educational activities. Prior to joining CNS in 2019, Mr. Kim served as a non-proliferation and nuclear security fellow at the Pacific Forum and a guest researcher at the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. He also worked for Daiwa International Corporation as a trade manager for chemical products trading. Mr. Kim holds an MA in non-proliferation and terrorism studies from the Middlebury Institute of International Studies, and a university diploma in international nuclear law from Montpellier University I, and the BS in nuclear engineering from Seoul National University. His areas of research include export controls and non-proliferation sanctions, open source information analysis, global nuclear politics, the North Korean nuclear program, and inter-Korean relations. So I'm very happy to have Hyuk for this year's Critical Issues Forum Teachers Workshop. So I'm going to give a microphone to you, Hyuk. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Masako, for your warm introduction. My name is Hyuk Kim, Research Associate of CNS. So today we are going to talk about the history of North Korean nuclear program as well as the international politics around it. So I will begin, for those who are not familiar with North Korea, I'll give you a brief introduction to North Korea. And then before we're talking about history of North Korean nuclear program, we will briefly touch on the relations between nuclear energy and nuclear weapons, as well as Treaty on Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons and International Atomic Energy Agency. And then we'll talk about history of North Korean nuclear program. Then lastly, we'll have Q&A section. First, North Korea. North Korea is located on the Korean Peninsula. As you can see here, it is located in the East Asian region. To the north, North Korea is bordered by China and Russia. To the south, it shares border with South Korea. And across the Sea of Japan, or East Sea, there's a Japan. Some of you may get confused of the official name of North Korea. North Korea's official name is Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Abbreviation is DPRK. Meanwhile, South Korea's official name is Republic of Korea, ROK. And there are some national flags that are similar to the North Korean one. And among those four here, the first one is North Korean national flag with a red, white, blue stripe with like a red star in the middle left. In terms of history of North Korea, like Korea was the one country which was under Japanese colonization between 1910 and 1945. After the end of the World War II, Korea was divided into two countries. One is South Korea, which is capitalist country with its capital in Seoul. And the other is North Korea, which was socialist country with its capital in Pyongyang. The major event between two Koreas was the Korean War. On June 25th in 1950, North Korea invaded South Korea. The United States fought together with South Korea to stop North Korean aggression, and North Korea was backed by China with some support from the former Soviet Union. In 1953, three countries, United States, China, and North Korea, signed armistice agreement. And like some argued that the Korean War is not officially ended yet. As most of us know, North Korean regime is totalitarian dictatorship ruled by the Kim family. The current leader, Kim Jong-un, who is on the right side, is the grandson of the founder of North Korea, Kim Il-sung. So as mentioned before, we talk about the history of North Korean nuclear program and international politics. We'll briefly touch on nuclear energy, nuclear weapons, NPT, and IAEA. I trust that other Senate staffs already shed insight on these issues for you. However, get reminded of these issues can help you have like a better understanding of how the North Korean nuclear crisis has begun in 1990s. So this is a very simplified picture for a nuclear fuel cycle. As we know, there are mainly two types of uranium. One is uranium-238 and the other is uranium-235. Uranium-235 is the one that causes nuclear fission chain reaction and immense amount of energy is released from it. In nature, only 0.7% of uranium is uranium-235, which means that if you mine 1 kilogram of uranium, only 7 grams is uranium-235. However, through the so-called enrichment processing, the concentrate of uranium-235 can be increased. And if it is increased up to 3%, it can be used at nuclear power plant for the electricity generation. And if it is increased up to 90%, it can be used for nuclear weapons. And after the energy generation at the nuclear power plant, there's spent fuel coming out from it. And spent fuel contains various types of elements, and one of them is plutonium. Plutonium can be chemically separated from spent fuel through the reprocessing process, and then that can be also used for nuclear weapons as well. So usually enrichment and reprocessing technologies pose relatively greater proliferation risk than other nuclear technologies. So let's talk about the IAEA and NPT. The NPT is an international agreement under which non-nuclear weapon states should not make nuclear weapons, and nuclear weapon states should not transfer nuclear weapon to non-nuclear weapon state. To ensure that non-nuclear weapon states are making nuclear weapons, does not make nuclear weapons, the NPT requires the state to cooperate with the IAEA in IAEA's verification activities. For example, let's say country A submit a report to the IAEA, and that report shows the list of nuclear facility and material that country A has. In this case, nuclear power plant, reprocessing facilities, spent fuel 1, and spent fuel 2. In return, IAEA conduct verification activities to ensure that report submitted by A is correct and complete. Especially the second element, the pursuing completeness in this context, is generally understood as ensuring that there's no undeclared activities. For example, IAEA may try to find if there's any indication of existence of spent fuel 3, spent fuel 4, or enrichment facility in country A. If IAEA find any of such indications, then IAEA can ask country A to cooperate with IAEA by providing other tools for verification activities, such as special inspections. Also, IAEA sometimes IAEA also install the containment and surveillance equipment in the nuclear facilities in country A. So now let's talk about history of North Korean nuclear program. In the stage of early development between 1960s and 1980s, North Korea received technical support from the former Soviet Union, and also North Korea tried to develop their indigenous nuclear technology as well. As the cooperation between Soviet Union and North Korea increased, in 1985, the former Soviet Union encouraged or pushed North Korea to join the NPT as a non-nuclear weapon state. Then how nuclear crisis has begun? Please be mindful that these slides are simplified for the presentation purpose. So some of the details might be a little bit missing here. So after the 7 years since North Korea joined the NPT in 1985, North Korea submitted its report to the IAEA in 1992. Here, the report says North Korea has power plant, radiochemical laboratory, which is actually reprocessing facility, spent fuel B, and plutonium A. Then IAEA conducted verification activities to ensure that North Korean report is correct and complete. However, after verification activities, IAEA announced that there's a significant inconsistency between what were reported by North Korea and what IAEA found from their verification activities. Specifically, the property of the plutonium A does not match with the property of spent fuel B. Therefore, IAEA was worried that there could be some undeclared material A from which plutonium A was originated. Therefore, IAEA asked North Korea to cooperate to resolve these issues by accepting special inspections. However, North Korea claimed that IAEA was influenced by the interest of the United States, and United States is manipulating the IAEA so that there's an unjust, North Korea was treated in an unjust manner. Therefore, North Korea announced its intention to withdraw from the NPT in 1993. So there were immense diplomatic effort within the international community to resolve this nuclear crisis. And eventually in 1994, United States and North Korea were able to conclude agreement, so-called as the agreed framework. Under the agreed framework, North Korea promised to freeze their nuclear facilities and stay as a party to the NPT. In return, the United States promised to provide 500,000 metric tons of heavy oil to North Korea annually and improve the relations with North Korea and build 2 nuclear power plants in North Korea in cooperation with South Korea and Japan. However, second nuclear crisis occurred in the beginning of 2000. Shortly after the agreed framework was signed, there was a shift in power in the US Congress, and some US congressmen did not support agreed framework since they believed that it can create the precedent in which wrongdoings are compensated with carrots instead of being punished with sticks. So there was a difficulties in financing for what US promised under the agreed framework. So that led to the delays in construction of nuclear power plants as well as provision of heavy oil to North Korea. Also, the former US President George Bush described North Korea as an axis of evil at the time. So from North Korean point of view, they argued that US is not making effort to improve the relations with North Korea. At the same time, the US intelligence community found out the information that North Korea was building a secret and illegal enrichment program in 2002. So US sent delegation to North Korea to discuss about these issues. And according to US government at the time, North Korea admitted the existence of such illicit program. So as a result, the United States stopped supplying heavy oil to North Korea. In return, eventually North Korea announced their withdrawal from the NPT in 2003. To address the second nuclear crisis, the bilateral efforts between the United States and North Korea was expanded to multilateral effort, which is called the six-party talks. Six-party talk was held between 2003 and 2007, and that include 6 countries around the Korean Peninsula. South Korea, North Korea, United States, China, Russia, and Japan. After the multiple round of six-party talks since 2003, in 2005, 6 countries were able to reach agreement in a form of joint statement, and they confirmed their willingness to achieve lasting peace and stability in Northeast Asia. Under this joint statement, North Korea promised to give up its nuclear weapons program and return to the NPT. And US also made a promise that are somewhat similar to what the promise under the agreed framework, such as improving relations with North Korea and discuss about provision of a nuclear power plant at proper timing and provide energy to North Korea. The other 4 countries, South Korea, Russia, Japan, and China, also promised to provide energy assistance to North Korea. However, 6-party talk also fell apart in 2007 as 6 countries were not able to agree on how to verify North Korean nuclear program. Also, in addition, North Korea conducted its first nuclear explosion test in 2006. Also, there was immense diplomatic friction between United States and North Korea, which aggravated the progress in 6-party talk. Since then, North Korea conducted 5 additional nuclear explosion tests in 2009, 13, twice in 2016, and the last one in 2017. And North Korea keep advancing their nuclear weapons technology, especially from the last test in 2017. North Korea claimed that they succeed in making thermonuclear weapon. And experts estimate that yield produced from the last test was greater than 15 times of the bomb dropped in Hiroshima. North Korea keep developing their ballistic missile program, which may target US territory. And notably, in 2018, US analysts found that there's another secret enrichment facility in North Korea. Many believes that North Korea currently have 20 to 30 nuclear arsenals, and they keep producing the fissile material that are enough to produce 6 to 7 nuclear weapons annually. However, there is also some little silver lining. As we know, there's ongoing diplomatic effort between President Trump and Kim Jong-un. As we know, there's a US, North Korea, and Singapore summit in 2018 in which 2 countries promised to rebuild their relations and work toward denuclearization of Korean Peninsula. And the other summit in 2019 was ended without agreement. Even though there's some diplomatic effort, however, the ongoing missile provocation by North Korea, as well as recently revealed secret enrichment facility, could complicate the ongoing effort to achieve denuclearization of Korean Peninsula. So this is all I prepared, and I am very happy to get questions.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Hyuk. That was very interesting, and it's a very worrisome situation. Could you go back to your final slide? Yeah, so this one. So when Trump and Kim Jong met in Singapore, there was some hope, but the second summit, Hanoi summit, didn't produce anything positive development. And basically there is no concrete agreement on denuclearization of North Korea. So I know no one knows what's going to happen to the future, but it might be interesting to hear your perspective. What's your opinion regarding the future of North Korea's nuclear weapons? I know everybody has a different perspective, so it would be interesting to hear what you think.
To be honest, I'm a little bit pessimistic about the prospect of achieving complete denuclearization of Korean Peninsula because first, there's a different understanding of concept of denuclearization between the United States and North Korea. As we know, United States wants North Korea to achieve, like United States want to achieve CVID, complete verifiable, irreversible denuclearization. While what complete denuclearization understood by North Korea may be a little bit different because North Korea used to describe, like for example, like military exercise between the United States and South Korea as a preparation of a nuclear war against North Korea. So that may also include nuclear umbrella provided by US for South Korea. So this could be seen by North Korea as a like kind of elements that must be included in complete denuclearization. Also at the United Nations, North Korea used to state that they want to make progress toward complete disarmament of globally as a responsible nuclear weapon state. So this may indicate that they think their nuclear weapon status, and they may want to discuss disarmament and denuclearization when there's a progress in other nuclear weapon state as well. So I think to be honest, the prospect for achieving denuclearization in Korean Peninsula may take very long time. Also simply North Korea was under the political and economic pressure for the last 30 years, and they just made what they want to have. And then there should be reasonable reason why they want to disarm at this moment, and which means that there could be lots of compensation to achieve North Korea, and then we don't know what it would be yet.
Thank you. So you also mentioned that North Korea's nuclear weapons capability is advancing because they have already conducted 6 nuclear weapons tests so far. So the most recent nuclear weapons test that was conducted in 2017. Mm-hmm. So that test showed that North Korea has already developed the capability of thermonuclear weapons, which is very worrisome. So do you have some idea how many nuclear weapons in total North Korea has? I know this is also an estimate because they never say. Sometimes we hear 20 or 30. What's your opinion regarding the number of North Korea's nuclear weapons?
To be honest, I don't know. But we can maybe track down and estimate quantity of the fissile material they produce, maybe by tracking the amount of time that they operated their 5 megawatt nuclear power plant. However, thing is, as I mentioned, that the recently revealed the enrichment facilities, we don't know how much highly enriched uranium was produced from that facility, so it's hard to estimate. However, many other experts believe that they have 20 to 30 nuclear arsenal at this time.
Thank you. So going back to a little bit more historical aspects, maybe let's go back to that point. You talked about the 6-party talks. So I still remember the time that we were talking about 6-party talks, and there was some hope. There was some optimistic view toward North Korea's disarmament. So especially when we look at this slide in a joint statement of 2005, give up the nuclear weapons program and return to the NPT.
Mhm.
Now it looks like almost a dream, pipe dream. So with this background, of course, again, there are many reasons, but in your view, what's the main reason why six-party talks failed? Or do you think, and I don't think there's any official shutdown of these six-party talks. So do you think any possibility that these countries can come back to the table to discuss as a six-party talks?
I'm not sure if they can come back, all these six countries can come back to tables at this time, because each country has different issue that they need to do with North Korea. For example, like Japan has abduct issues, but I hope it can happen. But this time, as I mentioned, that it might be a little bit more complicated in the past to solve, especially North Korean nuclear program, as there's a different understanding of what denuclearization means by North Korea. And one thing that I would like to emphasize here, especially as a South Korean, I think the current South Korean government may have more active role in bridging the gap in the different understanding of denuclearization by North Korea and the United States. So once that gap is bridged, maybe there could be certain, instead of having one big, like grand bargain, maybe we can start from something a little more like take the small steps toward the denuclearization first.
You mean taking some small step for denuclearization?
While confirming confirming the willingness to achieve the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. But it might be hard to make a grand bargain, like one deal that covers everything and solve the issues.
Okay, I see. So I know this is also it's so difficult to predict the future when it comes to North Korea's nuclear weapons policy, because Mr. Kim Jong keeps changing what he says. And currently, at this point, it's beginning of December. When we when we read the news articles, sounds like prospect is not so good. But there might be some possibility that he and Trump have some surprise meeting or something. I just simply don't know. But so it's very difficult to predict North Korea's nuclear issues. So for this project, high school students and high school teachers and young generations, do you have any a suggestion or some advice when we study North Korea's nuclear issues? What's the best way to predict or study? I guess for maybe some people may emphasize the importance of understanding different a historical background and or cultural differences, because we are U.S. organization, and I also heard some people really don't understand some historical or cultural perspective when you discuss the nuclear issues. So especially given your background, if you have any suggestion, that'd be helpful.
My suggestion is for those young generation, it might be good to maybe pay more attention to nuclear issues, as well as learn more about technical and political aspects of nuclear non-proliferation, especially particular focus on multilateral effort to achieve the nuclear-free world by the global international community. For example, like institutions such as IAEA or CTBTO, those are making very hard effort for the international peace and securities. And like young students can learn more about nuclear non-proliferation. I study more about nuclear non-proliferation so that they also have awareness of those political support for those multilateral effort for the global peace. I think that might be lead to good prospect of the future international peace and securities.
Yeah, thank you. And also, specifically when we study North Korea, South Korea issues, do you have any suggestion or? Do you think studying different languages is also helpful to understand the background?
Yeah, of course, especially learning Korean language might be very helpful to really understand what North Korea really think and their sentiment, as well as gaining our understandings and between an international community. And also it might be useful to also if we can find any way to provide more support for helping North Korean civilians who are suffer from hungers and lack of the educations and medical care and so on. If we can find a way to address those issues, it might be really helpful for the global peace.
So actually, this may be my last question. So do you think the North Korean people, they are supporting this nuclear weapons program internally? Because it's a dictatorship, so it's very difficult to know the public opinion, of course. And what's the situation with like a public of North Korea towards nuclear weapons program?
So this is totally my guess. And as a South Korean, I cannot visit North Korea, so I don't know how the public sentiment within North Korea. However, I guess that except for the ruling class in Pyongyang, the capital city, general public in North Korea may not support. They may not have much interest in the nuclear weapons they have. As think about you are suffering from hunger and then you don't know what to eat for the today, like evening or tomorrow, then the nuclear weapons or international politics may not be of your main interest. While maybe the ruling class, maybe in Pyongyang, like North Korean, like party members or Kim family, and those people may definitely support having nuclear weapons, as they can sensitize the threat posing from coming from the US and other countries, and it can use for their power, they solidify their power to control their internal politics.
Okay, thank you so much. And I think this is one of the most challenging issues in the world, North Korea's nuclear weapons program. And we all agree that there is no easy solution and there is no short-term solution. So it's very important for all of us to keep watching and pay attention to the news and try to read reliable news sources, because there are so many, some provocative news articles. So one thing I really want to emphasize is, especially for young generations, especially for this type of a sensitive topic, please try to read the reliable news sources, and that's why I always provide some useful resources list and read about centers analysis and nuclear threat initiatives analysis. So anyway, it's so interesting to hear your perspective, Hyuk, and I really appreciate your lecture. So just to conclude this lecture, I would like to ask Hyuk to give us some last words. So please.
Yes. Lastly, I would like to emphasize that to handle North Korean nuclear issues, we should not be too optimistic. At the same time, we should not be too pessimistic. In the past, US President Trump once said that it did not happen for the last decade, then why it would happen right now. At the same time, South Korean President Moon Jae-in said, if we stick to the past, we cannot move forward. So source of wisdom of those two leaders are different. One is idea for the future, the other is experience from the past. So I would like to say that we should refrain from too optimistic by believing that being nice to North Korea would lead to denuclearization. At the same time, we should refrain from being too pessimistic by believing that nothing is going to happen in North Korea. So in conclusion, I would like to say that there should be a compromise between idea and reality, and understand that no one can get everything they want to. Maybe it might be better to be very pragmatic and make effort for the peace. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Hyuk. So thank you so much. And if you have a student, thank you so much for listening to this lecture. If you have any question, please feel free to contact us. So thank you so much. Bye-bye. Thank you, Hyuk.
Thank you.